The film opens deep in the forest, far from civilization, with a young deer grazing. Without warning, a figure camouflaged in mud and leaves bursts from the brush. The figure tackles the deer to the ground and kills it swiftly with a knife. This isn't an adult, it's a teenage boy, breathing hard from the effort. He stands over the animal, blood on his hands, and as he looks up, several other camouflaged figures emerge silently from the woods. They are his family, all dressed in rough handmade hunting clothes. They watch with respect as their father, Ben, steps forward. Ben, rugged and commanding, moves with quiet authority. He approaches his son and tells him that today he has become a man. In a ritualistic tone, Ben wipes the boy's face with the deer's blood, marking the rite of passage. The rest of the family joins in, standing silently, proud of him. That night, they build a fire in the forest. The deer is cleaned, cooked, and shared among them. Later, as the fire burns low, they gather around to sing, the moment both wild and serene. The next morning, Ben leads the children to an exercise routine and the children obey without complaint, their bodies lean and strong, trained for this lifestyle. Later, the kids ask when is their mother coming back from the hospital. Ben assures them that he and Bo are going to find out. He makes the others promise to stay put and not leave the forest while he's gone. Later, Ben and Bo drive through the winding dirt roads that lead out of the wilderness. Bo looks around in awe at the unfamiliar towns and stores. They've lived isolated for so long that the modern world feels alien. When they stop at a local store, a group of girls greets Bo and tries to make small talk, but Bo freezes. He doesn't know what to say. Ben watches quietly from a distance, realizing how unprepared his son is for social interaction despite his intelligence. Afterward, Ben makes a phone call to his sister, Harper. He asks how his wife Leslie is doing, but Harper's voice is hesitant. After a pause, she finally tells him the news he wasn't ready to hear. Leslie took her own life the previous night. Ben sits still and silent, processing the words. The next morning, Ben takes a shower under a waterfall. It's a moment of silence, an attempt to clear his thoughts. He knows he has to tell his children the truth, and later that day, he gathers them together and tells them that their mother is gone, that she took her own life. His voice cracks as he says it, and the kids' reactions are heartbreaking. They cry openly, trying to understand why. By morning, the routine continues, even in grief. The kids wake up early again, and training begins. They jog and do push-ups. Later, Ben is on the phone with Leslie's father, Jack. He explains what happened and asks about the funeral arrangements. Jack doesn't hide his anger. He blames Ben for his daughter's death, accusing him of isolating her from the world, and tells him that he's not welcome at the funeral. Later, Ben tells the kids what their grandfather said and they react immediately. They refuse to accept it, arguing that their mother was a Buddhist and would have wanted to be cremated, not buried like Jack intends. They feel that their grandfather is betraying their mother's beliefs. Ben tells them to let it go, but they remain firm. They want to go, no matter what anyone says. The next morning, Ben wakes up to find his children already dressed and standing outside the bus with their bags packed. They're determined to attend their mother's funeral. Ben, realizing he can't stop them, tries to redirect their emotions and takes them rock climbing to release their frustration. They climb high cliffs in silence, every movement filled with bottled anger and sadness. Later, as they drive back through the forest, Ben looks at his kids and finally tells them that they'll go to the funeral together. He turns up the radio loud, blasting music as they cheer. They drive across bridges, past highways, and through towns filled with buildings and billboards, a stark contrast to their life in the woods. As the sun sets, Ben parks the bus in the middle of nowhere, and the family sleeps under the stars. The next morning, they continue their journey, but soon, flashing lights appear behind them, as a police car pulls them over. The officer walks up to the bus and asks for Ben's license and registration. As he glances inside, he sees the kids and asks why they aren't in school. Ben hesitates, unsure of what to say. The officer starts to get suspicious. Before things escalate, the kids suddenly start singing gospel songs in unison, pretending to be a traveling family of Jehovah's Witnesses. The officer, uncomfortable and thrown off by their act, quickly wraps up the stop and tells them to move along. Once the police car drives away, the family bursts into laughter and continues down the road. A few hours later, the kids complain of hunger, so Ben pulls into a diner. But when Ben looks at the ingredients, he frowns and tells them they're leaving, as there's nothing but junk food there, and the kids are disappointed. Later, Ben enters a grocery store to buy real food, but while shopping, he suddenly experiences a heart attack and collapses to the floor. The kids panic, shouting for help and asking the clerk to call 911. But then, in a strange twist, it's revealed to be a distraction. As the clerk rushes to help, the kids quickly grab groceries and run out to the bus with them. Moments later, Ben stands up, perfectly fine, and tells the confused employees not to call 911. It was all part of their plan. Later, the family sets up camp again in the woods. They prepare to eat, and Ben brings out a chocolate cake he managed to sneak out of the store. The kids' eyes light up, as they haven't had cake in months. As they eat, laughing and smiling for the first time in days, the family feels briefly whole again, even if the grief still lingers beneath the surface. Soon, the family continues their long drive. The landscape begins to change from forests and open fields to suburban streets lined with neat houses and trimmed lawns. They arrive at their Aunt Harper's house and are given food to eat. Ben pours himself a glass of wine, and when young Zaya asks for a glass too, Harper immediately intervenes, saying Zaya can't have alcohol. Ben looks surprised but doesn't argue, though the tension around the table thickens. Dave and Harper exchange glances, both remembering why they've kept their distance from Ben and his unconventional ways. To them, his methods seem reckless, training children to hunt, exposing them to harsh realities and refusing formal education. Later, the kids begin to unroll their sleeping bags in the yard. Harper notices and insists they sleep in the guest bedrooms instead. But Ben gently refuses, as his children are more comfortable sleeping under the stars. The next morning, Harper makes breakfast and signals to Dave to ask Ben about the kids. Dave then tells Ben that his kids need structure, that they should be in a proper school with other children, learning social skills and following a normal schedule. He points out that they'll never fit into the real world if Ben keeps them isolated. Ben listens patiently, then calmly tells Dave that the system he believes in is broken. He insists that his children are already learning far more than any school could ever teach. To prove it, he turns toward Dave and Harper's teenage sons, and asks them to explain what the Bill of Rights is. The boys look at each other, confused, and fumble through vague guesses. Then Ben calls out to his youngest daughter, Zaya, who doesn't hesitate for a second. She recites the Bill of Rights with confidence, explaining its historical importance and what it represents. Harper and Dave's faces tighten as they realize how sharp and well-read Ben's kids truly are. Soon after, the family is back on the road, as Ben refuses to be judged on his parenting skills. Eventually, they pull into a small trailer park off the highway. Later that day, while the others are gathered near the bus, Beau is approached by a teenage girl named Claire. She's curious about him right away, his calm way of speaking, his awkwardness and the way he seems both older and younger than he looks. She asks him what kind of music he listens to, and Beau, not understanding how people normally answer that question, tells her honestly that he and his family make up their own songs. Claire laughs softly, but finds it strange that he doesn't know any of the popular bands or modern trends. Claire looks at him closely, realizing how innocent he is, and kisses him. It's Beau's first kiss and his eyes widen, and before he can react, Claire's mother bursts through the trailer door, scolding them both and dragging her daughter inside. The next morning, Ben wakes the family early. They pack up the bus and hit the highway, determined to make it to their mother's funeral. Hours later, they arrive at the church. Ben and the kids step out of the bus dressed sharply but with their own unique sense of style, drawing the attention to them. The service begins, and the priest speaks softly about Leslie's life, but Ben can't stay silent. He rises, walks to the front, and tells the crowd that his wife wouldn't have wanted this. She was a Buddhist and had always wished to be cremated, not buried. He pulls a folded paper from his pocket, her handwritten will, stating her wishes clearly. Jack stands up, furious, and orders security to remove Ben. Two men grab him by the arms and drag him out of the church as his children watch in shock. Outside, Ben stands in the parking lot with his children and, after a few hours later, Jack and his wife come outside. Jack tells Ben coldly that he intends to take custody of the children, telling him that his way of life is dangerous, that his daughter's death was proof of it. That night, the family parks by a quiet playground. Beau and Relian are there together. Relian starts blaming their father for everything, saying their mother couldn't handle the way they lived, that her death was his fault. He admits he doesn't want to live like this anymore, he just wants to be normal. Beau listens, hurt but unable to argue. He knows there's truth in what Relian says. Later, Beau goes into the bus, rummaging through a box and pulling out a stack of letters, college acceptance letters from prestigious universities. When Ben sees them, he's stunned. Beau explains that he secretly applied months ago and got in everywhere. Ben feels betrayed, like his son has rejected everything he's taught. Beau argues back that he just wants a chance to live among people, to have a normal life, and see the world their mother always wanted them to. Not long after, the family discovers that Relian has disappeared. They track him to his grandparents' estate. Ben goes there and pleads to see his son, but Relian refuses to come back. He sits beside Jack, saying he wants to stay. Jack steps forward and tells Ben firmly that he's contacting his lawyer to get full custody of all the children. Ben sees the look in Jack's eyes and realizes there's nothing he can say. He gets back in the bus and drives away before the police arrive. But that night, guilt and desperation drive him back. He sends Vesper to sneak into the house through the roof and convince Relian to come home. As she climbs, her foot slips on the wet tiles, and she falls hard to the ground, hitting her head. Vesper is rushed to the hospital, and Ben waits for her but guilt destroys him. Days later, when Vesper is feeling better, Ben takes them to their grandparents' home and tells them that he's decided they should stay there. The kids protest, refusing to be separated, but Ben insists. He admits he was wrong, that raising them in isolation was a mistake. He wants them to have a chance at a normal life. With tears in his eyes, he drives away alone, leaving them behind. Later, Ben pulls into a small roadside store. He buys a cheap haircut kit, goes into the restroom, and shaves off his long beard. When he looks into the mirror, he barely recognizes himself. It's a symbol of starting over, of letting go. That evening, as he sits around a fire, the compartment under one of the seats opens, and his children crawl out. They hid there, as they refuse to be separated from their father no matter what. They then tell him that they have one last thing to do, honor their mother's true wish. Together, they drive to the cemetery, dig up her coffin under the moonlight, and carefully take her body away. They travel deep into the forest to a cliff overlooking the valley, the same kind of place she loved. They build a pyre and place her body on it. As the flames rise, the kids sing her favorite song. When it's done, they collect her ashes and carry them to a restroom in the airport. With solemn faces, they pour her ashes into a toilet and flush, honoring her last request with a strange mix of grief and humor. Soon, Bo says goodbye to his siblings, as he's heading off to college. Ben hugs him tightly, proud and emotional. Then the rest of the family drives back to the forest, returning to the life they built, but now changed. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more notification. Until next time. See you soon.